Good afternoon, everybody. So the title of today's panel is Anchored in Asia, What to the World, Singapore's Innovation Story. So what we hope this panel can do, and we want to start with beginning the end in mind, is this panel hopefully is a condensed 30 minutes for two groups of audiences that are here. One is the community investors, entrepreneurs, innovators from US or Europe who are considering to come to Asia and weighing whether you want to kind of set up shop, have a base here in Singapore. So today's content is for this first group. The second group, we're hoping that this condensed half an hour could be helpful, is for also innovators and investors from Asia Pacific, maybe from China, Korea, Japan, thinking about internationalizing, expanding from your domestic market and wondering whether Singapore should be a one of international base for you to internationalize. So that would be the content they were hoping that to add value for this half an hour. And want to first and foremost introduce the panel today. So on the left is Mr. So Leng. Leng is the Assistant Managing Director of Enterprise Singapore. Enterprise Singapore, EDB, and A-Star are three important public agencies that's been driving the local Singapore medtech scene. And Leng is also the chair of Medtech Catapult, National Medtech Initiative Office. Next, we have Mr. Wong Chung. Chung is the Group CEO of Advanced Medtech. Advanced Medtech is a Temasek-owned medtech company that started from here in Singapore. And right now, they have businesses across Europe, US, and China. On the far right, we have Mr. Sim Zhiming. Zhiming is a Singaporean ex-entrepreneur. Well, right now, he is Director of International Partnerships at Tsinghua Medicine in Beijing, and is also the assistant of Deputy Provost of Tsinghua University, Professor Wong, who is unable to join us today. So lastly, I'm Ruey. I'm the Head of Innovation at Genesis MedTech. We are a Singapore headquartered platform company with a heavy focus in China and international emerging markets. I'm also the founding faculty and mentor of Singapore Biodesign. So before we start the time with our three panel, there are actually two more panelists that were really hoping to be with us today. Professor Josh McHoward, founder and director of Stanford Biodesign and venture partner in Sovinova. And the second panelist was hoping to be with us today is actually Professor Wong, Deputy Provost of Tsinghua University and the founding head of Tsinghua Medicine, and also the chair of Singapore Biodesign. Both gentlemen are actually giants in the medtech traffic between US and Singapore and US and China. Unfortunately, due to their conflict, they are not able to be here in person, but they have generously offered a video message that on this topic that are dear to their hearts. So can we, before we start the panel, roll the video?
Good morning. I'm Josh McHoward. I'm the co-founder of the Stanford Musalem Center for Biodesign and a professor of medicine and bioengineering here at Stanford. I'm sorry I can't be with you all today. I was really hoping to be able to get there, but it's just too many things going on, graduating of our fellows, etc. So it's a pleasure to address you this way. Thank you, Ruey, for inviting me to provide this video. I'm just going to go through a little bit of the history of Stanford Biodesign with Singapore. It started with two of our U.S. biodesign fellows, Dot Ko and Ruey. Dot was at EDB and Ruey was at A-Star. And they really stood out. When they came back to Singapore, they shared their experience and they really encouraged the government to look at biodesign as a way to facilitate, inspire, advance, the ecosystem around health technology in Singapore and potentially for all of Asia. That prompted a delegation to come out in 2009. And in 2010, John Hennessy, our president at the time, signed an agreement with the Singaporean government to begin Singapore Stanford Biodesign program.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to the LSI Asia Summit. I'm sorry I couldn't join today, but I'd like to congratulate Ruey and the organizers for organizing this summit. I'm sure you will have a productive and a very interesting session. My name is Professor Tian Yin Wong. I'm the current founding head and the senior vice chancellor for Tsinghua Medicine, based in Tsinghua University in Beijing, China. Let me tell you a little bit about Singapore's role in the medtech ecosystem. Singapore has always been a very important bridging role between the West and the East. We have a lot of connections and collaborations with the US and Western Europe, and we also have increasing being a platform and a bridge for Chinese companies and for Singapore companies to go to China. I think Singapore plays a very key role in this very difficult and uncertain times. Singapore is an open, innovative society. It has a lot of high-level talents, and it has a lot of platforms to bring people of different types of expertise together. For example, doctors, scientists, engineers, and it has the ecosystem to create new ideas and to execute some of these new ideas. We hope to bring some of these products, some inventions, innovations that originates either from the West to Singapore, Singapore to China, and from China to Singapore, and Singapore to the rest of the world. I think this kind of bridging platform roles are very critical to bring the world closer together.
All right. And due to time constraint, unfortunately, we can't air the entire video over this session. But George basically shared further about how the Bay Area have partnered with Singapore, and that has gone as far as 15 years ago, and how subsequently different Bay Area ecosystems and groups came over to Singapore and before they've launched themselves in Asia. And Prof. Wong in the subsequent video shared about various activities, both Singapore and China's healthcare system are collaborating. So what we have done is you can still scan the QR code to watch the full clip on the content. But right now, while you scan the QR code and have it in your cell phone, we'll switch the attention to our live panelists. And first and foremost, on this topic, obviously, you really want to start with Leng. Leng, we're very fortunate to have a very senior leader from Enterprise Singapore, and they've been one of the key drivers of driving the Singapore medtech scene. So, Leng, maybe for a start, share with us about the Singapore medtech landscape, and for the two groups of audiences here that we were trying to cater this panelists to, any schemes or advice for organizations and individuals who are looking at coming to Singapore?
So thanks a lot, Ray. Yeah. So I think first I wanted to address the question of, why Singapore, I think Ray spoke about, coming from the rest of the world to Singapore through APAC and vice versa, but why Singapore and not, say, some other locations in this region? And I thought there's really 3 points useful to share here. One is that really there are already many medtech multinationals who are already here. And why they are here? I think the previous session spoke quite a bit about it, about our conducive business environment and our, I would say, very protective IP regime. And I think that is a plus for many medtech companies to want to come through Singapore to go on to the rest of the world. A second point, I think, which was also kind of covered in the previous session, is the fact that I think the Singapore government is a very supportive government, I think, in the medtech domain, as well, I would say, in the larger life sciences domain. So I think we have invested quite a big sum of money over the years in R&D, but it goes beyond R&D, I think, to have that attention, to have the whole ecosystem of support, be it through the Singapore Biodesign Program, be it through the setup of the medtech catapult to enable commercialization. So I think these efforts, I think, illustrate how the Singapore government supports the business community in, I would say, translating the R&D to commercialization. And the third point, I think, to really share here as well, is the fact that I think the Singapore healthcare system, I think, is going to be a good partner, I think, for many of the companies in terms of innovation and development, right? And from there, I think it's about how our healthcare system and our R&D system, I think, have also linkages to the larger network within APAC and how this in turn helps companies. I think specifically in terms of the kind of, I would say, support, right? I think Ray mentioned about different kinds of schemes in that regard. I thought to perhaps differentiate it in terms of both financial and non-financial support. And I would say actually the non-financial support is very important, I think, for the various companies, enterprises that are setting up shop in Singapore. So I think for one, I think in particular for many of the startups, I think who are coming to here, I think this is where we have the global venture capitalists and incubators whom we have attracted to set up shop here, right? And they in turn will be very good partners to partner many of these startups. Two, I think in terms of the Singapore government support, I think we have, I would say, multiple offices across the world in this region where we in turn help Singapore-based companies, I think, establish market connections in these various overseas cities, right? And this is also working with very established partners, for example, like Mayo Clinic in the US, to help companies from APAC going into US so that they understand what the US market system is like. Yeah. And then finally, I think beyond this non-financial support, I think there is always financial support, which could be, I would say, customized to very specific companies' needs. So that is a discussion we will have, I think, with the respective companies. Yeah.
Thanks. And so for the audiences here and whoever's going to watch this from the video, if you want to find out more about schemes, maybe Leng One and Enterprise Singapore team could be a group that you've tapped on. So let's quickly segue into from government perspective to private company perspective. So Advanced Medtech has been an exemplary company that started from Singapore, fully Temasek owned, and have gone international. So Chung, can you share with us the journey of Advanced Medtech, how you've become international from being a Singapore company?
Sure, thank you, Ray. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me first start off by introducing Advanced Medtech. We are in the business of treating two common but uncomfortable conditions, kidney stones and benign prostate hyperplasia, BPH. Kidney stones is known to be one of the worst pain that patients can ever experience, and the prevalence is increasing with our dietary habits. For men in the room, unfortunately, half of us, when we're above 50 years old, will experience enlarged prostates, and a simple task of going to the washroom becomes a test of patience and plumbing. Yeah. But the good news is that for those of you who have experienced kidney stones and BPH, you might have been treated by devices for Advanced Medtech and you may not know it. So I'm Chung, I'm the Group CEO of Advanced Medtech, and we are 1,300 staff globally. We are a global urology medical device company headquartered in Singapore. We have deep roots in Singapore, but we also have a deep heritage in German engineering with our fully owned subsidiary Dornier MedTech in Germany, Wesseling. Dornier is the pioneer of shockwave lithotripsy, the first non-invasive procedure for the treatment of kidney stones. Today, we have grown from a single product company to an entire portfolio of products for endourology, ranging from shockwave lithotripters, surgical tables, surgical lasers, scopes, and consumables. Now, what's so unique about the Advanced MedTech story is how did a Singapore-based company grow to become among the top 6 global urology medical device company in the world, with 60% of our business and staff in the US and the rest in Europe, China, and Japan. I would say the answer is in innovation, innovative products that's driving this growth. And this innovation that is sourced from Singapore and bridged from Singapore. So let me explain these two parts about source from Singapore and bridge from Singapore. In terms of source from Singapore, I'm very proud of a project they're working on called Project Clarity. This is a project in Singapore to develop the next generation intelligent lithotripsy laser system. Now, it's a research collaboration between doctors, urologists from Ng Teng Fong Hospital, a hospital in Singapore, working together with public government research institutes such as A-STAR, Singapore Biodesign, and MedTech Catapult, together with industry partner, and that's Advanced MedTech and Dornier Medtech. It is like what Leng said, a perfect illustration of how the ecosystem works in Singapore, with doctors, engineers, researchers working seamlessly. Dornier Medtech comes in with German engineering to help bring the deep German engineering expertise. And we reached a very proud milestone earlier this year when the team in Dornier, US, with its deep commercial and marketing presence, brought the Singapore innovation team to showcase and prototype its device at the annual American Urology Association Congress in Las Vegas. Now, it's not just about Singapore as a source of innovation, but Singapore being a bridge for innovation between China and the world. We all heard about Professor Tian Yin mention about it, and Advanced Medtech is a company that have used Singapore as a platform to bridge the innovation between China and the world. Now, when we talk about innovation in China, what conjures to mind is BYD, DeepSeek, EV, AI. But the very same factors, scale, ambition, speed, that drives this innovation is also driving medtech innovation in China, which my fellow panelist Ziming will talk about later. How Advanced Medtech, what we do is that through our wholly owned subsidiary, Recon in Shenzhen, we combine our R&D team, the capabilities there, together with the German engineering, bring German precision together with Chinese agility, speed. The result, we have world-class products at very cost-effective prices. Besides this, how we play a role is that we help to bridge the engineering cultural differences between Germany and China. And that's the critical role that Singapore plays. The other innovation that we tap upon in China is that Advanced Medtech sources and work with innovation partners directly in China. With our commercial strengths in US, Europe, and Japan, my commercial team is able to directly feedback on the point, clinician views on the products that the Chinese are innovating in. And Chinese, with their speed, agility, quickly iterate these products and customize the products for the different markets, US, Europe, and Japan. And this is something that it will be more difficult for them to do it by themselves. Now, where Singapore play a role is that we help to bridge the communication between the markets in the West and the East. And that helps facilitate the innovation process. So Singapore, to me, to Advanced Medtech, and to many of you, can be a base for you to build your innovation, to source it, to connect, to build the bridge between the cultural gaps between the East and the West, and to scale, to bring these innovations to a global impact. I'll end off here with just a few words here. I've started off talking about kidney stone as BPH. I will just say that for those who do not have kidney stones, keep it up. Please drink the water. Water is a proven way to not have kidney stones. For BPH, for men under the age of 50 and 60, enjoy the ease of going to the toilet. And lastly, if it comes to hit you in the future, don't worry, with the innovation that Advanced Medtech is doing, we've got you covered. So thank you.
All right. Yeah, and thanks, Chung, for sharing. I think, yes, we always say Singapore is one of the Asia-Pacific countries in the South, right? So very apt for Advanced Medtech, a very Singapore company, to also be dealing with health down in the south of our body. So, but thanks, Chung. I think it's actually a great example how operationally, just within Yao Chong's Advanced Medtech ecosystem, how their teams from Singapore, Germany, US, and China actually works together. So I think that's hopefully that's anecdote to us on how these international teams could actually work if there is a Singapore note in these teams. Let's segue now with a lens more between Singapore and China. So Ziming, Ziming, and Prof. Wong are two exciting individuals. They are Singaporeans. They are born and raised here, but right now based in Beijing, and journeying with Tsinghua to internationalize their medical community and their research. So, Ziming, I know you've been, you and Prof. Wong has been on a very high level, on a high institutional level, even with among government level, see more partnerships between Singapore and China. Can you shed more light about that?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. So my name is Zimin. I was born and raised in Singapore, and currently I'm based in Beijing, as Ray said. So part of my work in Tsinghua University and Tsinghua Medicine is actually dealing with partnerships, right? So whether that be academic and corporate partnerships or whether it's international partnerships. So I think when we come to kind of look at partnerships in general and how we can facilitate more of these international collaborations, we really think about it from a couple of perspectives. I think what we have tried to do in Tsinghua Medicine, trying to build an academic health system for China, right, allowing us to plug in with some of the leading international academic partners. It gives us a good base for us to land long-tail projects like education, but also research and also potentially innovation partnerships, right? Whether it be looking at clinical trials or implementation partners, right, in hospitals. So since we have got to Tsinghua in the last 3 years, right, we have really built out strong international education programs. I think this is really important for wanting to collaborate with the healthcare ecosystem in general. Actually, one of the things that we have piloted over the last few years is to bring Singapore students, medical healthcare students from Singapore, and putting them in the Chinese health system, and then bringing Chinese clinician students, whether is it clinical students as well as research students, to Singapore as well. I think one of the things that does is create this long tail of academic partnerships, right, that will facilitate long-term collaboration between Singapore, China, as well as China, Singapore, and the rest of the world. We also do a lot of academic collaborations through research, through grants, through clinical trials. I think one of the big strengths of China in this health ecosystem is really the scale. I mean, of course, people know that China is a huge country, but even then, I think it underestimates what China is like. I always tell people that it's probably more helpful to think of China as a continent as opposed to being a country, right? In terms of land mass, in terms of people, in terms of size. Just a few weeks ago, I was at one of the largest neuroscience facility in China, right? So Tiantan Hospital in Beijing. And the number of brain surgeries that they do in one day is what most centers around the world do in a quarter, right? So like 3 months, right? So, the scale and volume is just of a different level. And I think that kind of scale lends itself well to whether is it you're looking at clinical trials, you're looking at cohort studies, you're looking at a lot of these implementation studies and trying to get your ideas out quickly. I think they really lend themselves well to that. I think just now a lot of things was mentioned about speed, of scale. I think those are the things that I think China can offer, right, to the rest of the world. And I think from our perspective as Singaporeans working in China, I think as long as we can facilitate more of that bridge building between Singapore and China, we can help build that bridge as well between the rest of the world and China. And I will end with this one point, right, which I think that one thing that Singapore offers is we have a lot of academic partners that have collaborations with China, but it's not just if at the university and at the hospital, at the clinician kind of level, but also we have government officials and we have policymakers that also have deep ties with China, but we also have corporate partners as well with deep ties with China. And I think this whole ecosystem approach towards our collaboration, not only in China, but actually the rest of the world as well, right? That kind of academic, private, public type of partnership, I think is one of the great strengths of the Singapore ecosystem. And hopefully, I think at this conference, with a lot of our partners from outside of the region, right, a lot of these partnerships can be explored in depth, right? So I'll end with that note. Thanks, Ray.
Yes, Zhiming, thanks for sharing that. And I'm personally aware that Zhiming, Prof. Wong, and between Singapore and China, these collaborations with Tsinghua and the rest of the healthcare system spans beyond universities and hospitals, physicians. There are also companies that are based in Southeast Asia that manage to leverage on Tsinghua and China's clinical studies scalability and got products approved in a much faster time. So thanks, Zhiming, for shedding that light. I'm looking at the clock. I know that now we're being hurried to wrap up this session real quick. So my last few comments would be not just to wrap up, but also to speak a little bit more about the US and Singapore's partnership for the last 15 years to supplement what Josh is not able to share fully for not being here. So especially for the US and the European LSI community that's here or watching on the video. Singapore's partnership with US really started 15 years ago, what Josh has mentioned. And I still remember vividly in 2011, Singapore actually hosted Dr. Tom Fogarty to fly into Singapore to open the inaugural Singapore Stanford Biodesign's Thought Leaders series. And fast forward to today, earlier this year, Josh and the Stanford team actually flew in and celebrated 15 years of friendship between Bay Area and the US medtech ecosystem in Singapore. And subsequently to that, we've seen that groups like the Fogarty Institution, after Dr. Tom Fogarty came to Singapore many years ago, they're now advising public agencies here in Singapore and in fact incubating and hosting some of the Singapore or Southeast Asian startups in Silicon Valley. We've also seen the groups like Lightstone Ventures, who is now very deep partnership with Temasek, and the Foundry incubator having actually its group of R&D team here in Singapore in one of their portfolio companies. So I think there is a lot of the friendships that hopefully these are examples that can encourage, again, people in the audience or watching from the video. If you're wondering about coming to Asia and whether Singapore could be a base, hopefully these are examples that can give you inspirations. So wrapping up, thank you the panel for sharing from government perspective, private company case study, and Ziming shedding insight about how the traffic between Singapore and China has been. So I hope this is helpful for the community here. And I would say ending off with, regardless in your decision whether you would like to come to Asia, to have a base in Singapore, or we are based in Asia, wanting to internationalize to Singapore, hopefully the LSI conference is one that still really encourage us to have this East-West collaboration as really one global medtech village, especially in this sensitive and interesting times that we are in. Hopefully this East-West partnership will continue to blossom and eventually we will impact patients. So with that, thank you for your attention, and hopefully this conference will serve you fruitful partnerships and deals that move your organization to the next level. Thank you.